You know, I really wish I wasn't so tall sometimes. Today is a new day. Today is Monday, March 4th? Okay, I can't lie. Today's actually Sunday. I'm just recording this early. Thanks for noticing that the titles are no longer numbered with episode numbers. I feel like it's gonna get really redundant coming up soon, so just gonna go ahead and break away from that now. We're actually gonna go over our first deep dive into the Tempest Cup Pokemon, and based on some comments that we had last couple of videos, Mantine was actually one of the most requested Pokemon that we do, so I decided to go ahead and deep dive into Mantine, which is fitting since he's a water type. Here's the information that I dug up and that I found about Mantine. Hang on. Mantine is a water and flying type Pokemon. Its max CP is going to be 2108 at level 40. In the Great League specifically, you can get up to 1495 at 29.5 being the level. The only way to do that, by my calculation, is by getting 0 IVs all the way across the board. So that one may be a little tricky, but it is possible to max him out at 1495 at level 29.5. Because of his CP and all of his stats, he does actually get up to 60% of his full potential based on his base stats. At level 40, his base stats times the CP multiplier, being that at level 29.5, times his base stat for that CP multiplier for level 29.5, you actually get a full potential of 60.34, which is actually pretty good. Where he actually hits on a lot of his stats, so he's actually 7th highest defense in all of the Tempest League candidates. In terms of defense for the Tempest Cup, your max contenders are actually going to be Steelix and Onix. They actually have the same defense at 183. Based on their levels and, you know, timesing by CP multiplier and all that. Then you actually have Regice, Claydol, Cloyster, Lugia, and then Mantine. So his defense stat is actually really good. Makes him quite bulky. Now that actually brings us to, he's actually the 11th highest bulk Pokemon. So here again, Steelix ends up rounding out the top spot for bulk. My bulk calculation is literally just defense times HP for their respective base stats. It's just defense times HP. You actually have Steelix, Tropius, Lugia, Jumpluff, Dugong, Altaria, Claydol, Regice, Lapras, Lantern, and then Mantine. So being 11th out of 166, I think it was, that's not too shabby. That's not bad at all. That's nothing to be worried about. So in my honest opinion, I do feel like Mantine falls into a shield busting category, but he's kind of in an interesting shield buster category, and we'll go over that here in a minute. Let's take a look really fast at the moves that Mantine actually has. Starting with Bubble, it actually gains 3.67 energy per turn, actually has a 2.67 damage per turn. That's probably the best fast move that you can have in most situations. It's going to do the best energy, and it'll definitely have the best damage. Bullet Seed, of course, does have the same energy per turn, but its damage is so much lower. I personally would definitely have Bubble on mine. That's just me. Then you actually have Wing Attack with 3.5 and 2.5 respectively on the energy and the damage. And like we talked about, Bullet Seed being 3.67 and 1.67 respectively for energy and damage as well. Me personally, I'm going to run Bubble. If I run Mantine, that's going to be my preferred fast move. Next, let's talk about his charge moves. So we actually have Ice Beam that costs 55 energy to actually fire. Does 90 damage every time you fire it, which equates to a 1.64 damage per energy. That is going to be a very important move for Mantine. Then you actually have Aerial Ace, which is 45 energy to fire, 55 damage every time you fire it, which is a 1.22 damage per energy. Lastly, you have Water Pulse, which is a 60 energy move, does 70 damage for a 1.17 damage per energy there. While Ice Beam does not get a stab benefit, it's going to help Mantine cover so much. It's actually going to help Mantine cover things that already are going to hurt him a lot. Ice Beam is actually going to help cover a lot, especially in the flying area. Any Pokemon that has flying, any Pokemon that's grass. Mainly, I'm thinking like Tropius is grass and flying, so he's going to be quad weak to ice. Definitely a good move to have in that matchup. Any ground type Pokemon, any dragon type Pokemon, Ice Beam is going to be very, very effective. It's something that I would not run a Mantine without, period. Next, we actually have the option between Aerial Ace and Water Pulse. So they do both get a stab bonus from Mantine's typing here, but since we already have a water move here, I personally think I would go for a flying type move, only because flying is going to be neutral to the 4 main typings in the cup, and being that you're going to be able to push neutral damage, it's a lot better than pushing resisted damage in some scenarios. But, you know, it's kind of a toss-up, whichever one you prefer. In my opinion, if you run Water Pulse, it moves him a little outside of the Shield Buster territory, and he's more of just like a bulky mid. So I personally think that Aerial Ace is probably my preferred move, along with Ice Beam. That's my preferred moveset. Bubble, Ice Beam, Aerial Ace. Done. That puts him in a really quick firing position because of Bubble's energy, and Aerial Ace is only 45 energy to fire, and Ice Beam's only 55, so it's not like it's too far behind. It's actually going to set you up to be a really quick Shield Buster that has a lot of bulk. So that actually brings us, where do we actually go with Mantine? So Mantine being the 7th highest defense stat in the entire cup, being the 11th highest bulk Pokemon in the entire cup, and having this moveset, I definitely think he falls into a Shield Buster. He is for sure going to be able to bust several shields out there. So against the other bulky Pokemon and the other Pokemon that have really high defenses, Mantine actually does decently well. Regice does give it some trouble because you can't do any kind of super damage to Regice. Steelix you're going to be able to do neutral damage to, so it's not like super great. Tropius you have covered. Lugia, you've got a little bit going for you with Lugia's flying type. Jumpluff, you're actually going to be squared away with Ice Beam. Jumpluff is actually a really interesting. I think we should probably look at Jumpluff at a later date. Dugong, you're going to have some trouble with, but that's kind of what Aerial Ace is for, being able to push out those quick neutral damage charge moves. You're going to be able to push them out and make them either take neutral damage or shield. Dugong does have quite a bit of bulk, which we're definitely going to talk about Dugong upcoming. Altaria you're going to have covered. Claydol you're going to have covered. Regice we talked about. Lapras is another one that's kind of iffy just because of the water ice typing. And then we get to Lantern. So Lantern actually brings us to a good section to talk about what actually counters Mantine. And this is one of my favorite things about Mantine, is that his hardest counters are going to be Pokemon that aren't really super meta relevant. Most of the meta relevant Pokemon are going to do neutral damage to Mantine, and the big one that you're going to have to look out for, of course, is Lantern. Lantern being bulky, having water and electric typing, he's just going to be great as it is. But you need to be on the watch for Lanturns. Plusle and Minun are going to be out there, and any Pokemon that can learn Hidden Power like Togetic and Togekiss, those are going to be kind of issues if they come up with a electric Hidden Power. But that's probably going to be pretty rare. I don't think you should really like play around that. I don't think you should have to worry about that. That shouldn't be a deciding factor if you go in with Mantine or not. And the last thing that Mantine is actually going to be good for, he's going to be good for covering those ground type Pokemon, and the fire type Pokemon are going to have a big issue. I was actually thinking right before I started recording, what fire Pokemon are actually going to be hurt by Mantine. Charizard's actually going to be pretty hurt because you can use Bubble, and then you also have Ice Beam, which is probably going to end up being neutral based on the fire and flying typing. Bubble's going to be able to push super effective damage. And then I got to thinking, Camerup's also an option, but Camerup's going to be neutral to Ice Beam because of fire and ground typing, but your Bubble is going to just completely annihilate Camerup. I don't think he's going to have any trouble. He's going to be a good counter to any fire type Pokemon. And I mean, overall, I think Mantine is a great choice. He's definitely, in my opinion, he's going to be best as a mid. he's going to be one of those mids that you choose, and it's a shield busting mid. It's not something you want to have there for, you know, super long end of closing, like they've wasted all their shields, let's throw in, you know, Mantine. I don't think it's going to be like something for that, but I think Mantine does a really good position as a mid. He's someone that's going to be a surprise for you to pull out, but I don't think I would lead with him because of electric typing being a super bad weakness for Mantine. I don't think I would lead with him, and he's not like super great as a closer, but he can get the job done depending on the situation. I definitely think that I would have him as a mid slot and pull him out if he's needed and go from there. That is actually going to be my opinion on Mantine, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really am excited to start doing this series of videos. If you have a Pokemon that you want me to personally do a deep dive on and look into, let me know down in the comments below. We're going to be doing this I'm going to try to shoot for 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, to do deep dives, and we'll go from there and see how many Pokemon we can get done in a month. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you like to like videos, make sure you do that. If you don't, you can be that guy. Otherwise, let me know what I have to say down in the comments below. And until tomorrow, I will catch you guys then.